Yeah, my oil pressure sensor doesn't seem to be registering. So I'm gonna have to look into that. Well, at least my, I know my warning light works. Hi everybody, how are you? My name is Dan Dulac and welcome back to my channel. I am building a V10 powered Ultima Evolution convertible. If you missed any of the previous episodes, by now you know what to do. Go back into my channel and check those out. We have done a lot and we are close. I'd say we are probably 1 or 2 episodes away from seeing this car drive under its own power, knock on wood. And then we're gonna finish up all the body work and so forth. So this car will be done in 2024. We are not far from driving this car under its own power. On this episode, we're gonna take care of a few things. We're gonna test the Motec display. You remember in the last 3 episodes, we went through from start to finish, discovering CAN bus signals off the factory ECU, figuring out how to create a DBC file, a conversion file factor that I could then read into my Motec software and then push that software up to my display. So now we're gonna test it. I'm gonna show you what the end result looks like. It is very, very cool. I've got a few pots and pans I wanna take care of too. I wanna put an e-brake switch on the e-brake so that I get a little warning light pop up on my dash if I forget and leave the e-brake on. And then we'll wrap this episode with an update on my plans on how I'm gonna fix this transmission. I'm going a completely different route to fix this and I can't wait to show you. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. One of the things I need to do on this V10 engine is I'm going to install one of these oil pressure sensors here. This is a Rife sensor I got from MotionWorks. I've got the adapter here. Because the V10 does not have an oil pressure sensor, it's got an oil pressure switch. So when the oil pressure dips below a certain level, it'll illuminate an oil pressure light on the dash. I'm going to obviously keep that, but I'm gonna put a proper oil pressure sensor in place so that I can measure oil pressure in real time. So on the engine, fortunately, there's a port here that I can use. It's pretty easy. See if I can zoom in here on this. It is at the base of the oil filter, right there. That little plug, block-off plug there with the star bit, M10 by 1mm to 1/8 NPT adapter, and this sucker will go right in place. Just gonna run some wires through the bulkhead, back around to the dash. So that's a little bit of a pain, but kind of an afterthought idea here. I wish I'd thought of this sooner. But in any event, that's what we're gonna do. Put this thing in, and then we will add a proper oil pressure sensor metric or telemetry to the dash. All right, I've got my laptop here set up. We're gonna upload the dash with all my latest config files that we built in the last episode of my display creator and dash manager software. There's 3 things I'm gonna do. First, there's a PDM update. So I did change some of the logic in my power distribution manager software. So I'm gonna upload that first. Then the order of operations here, I'm gonna upload the dash manager config and then finally the display creator config on top. So those 3 in that order, and we should be good to go here. So let me go ahead and power this stuff up. So for my PDM update, just do that first. There we go. So PDM is updating. That's done. The dash power cycled. So that's all set. You can close this. Next thing I'm going to do is upload the dash manager software. Send configuration. Yes. And on the screen you can see it says config load. Little alarm warning there. Then the last piece is we will update my display creator software. So take a couple seconds, and then this will upload all the dash display parameters and user interface. All right, device will reboot, and there we go. So now I fixed it too, so my main dash screen comes up first, and then I can cycle through the various dash displays using my button, this guy here. So I can hit this button here, and then I can cycle through the displays. So sweet, I got that working. All right, so then we can go ahead, get the engine started, and make sure all the telemetry is working as we expect. All right, I've got the revised dash manager and display creator config files uploaded. It's ready to go, and we're gonna fire this engine. We're gonna test the brand new oil pressure sensor. So we're gonna see if that works here, and we'll see how it goes. So let's turn the dash on. And I configured some of the LED lights as well. The two red ones are oil pressure, and then the blue are engine temperature. So the blue will stay on until the engine temperature goes up to operating. And then the red, of course, is oil pressure. So once the engine builds oil pressure, that red light will go off as well. Change display here. I've got multiple displays set up here. My G meter is working. Looks great. Telemetry looks great. And back to the main dash here. You can see my little steering wheel icon. That indicates the electronic power steering assist is operational. And you can see my fuel level is where it should be as well, given I've only got maybe a gallon on each side, each tank. All right, let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Ignition. You see I got my brake pedal icon there. I got the check engine light working. Oil pressure isn't working. Yeah, my oil pressure sensor doesn't seem to be registering. So I'm gonna have to look into that. Well, at least I know my warning light works. I gotta troubleshoot my new oil pressure sensor. Yeah, oil pressure is reading -19. So that's not registering. I'm gonna have to look into that. Oh, there we go. Huh. Loose connection. Perfect. So over here, my oil pressure, when I jiggle this, the oil pressure, watch. Here when I jiggle this. See that? Jiggle on the wire, I got an low oil pressure. Yeah, so I've got a loose wire there I'm gonna have to fix. All right, cool. Change my display setting here. Awesome, oil pressure 102, 103 PSI. That's obviously the oil is still cold, so that'll come down once the oil warms up. Looks great. My RPM signal, now that I've got the right CAN bus signal, RPM is dead flat. It's awesome. And then these blue lines will turn green once coolant temp and oil temp get up to operating temperature, we'll see the tach turn green and then the various gauges turn green. So here's something cool too. So in the CAN bus file, in the DBC file, I found what the ECU wants to set as the target idle. So you can see 798 RPM is the target, and then you can see the actual idle 798. And then I've got my raw RPM signal and then the smooth signal again from the OEM ECM. So I was able to figure those out too, which is really cool. Let's change the display here. I think I've got this set. Once it gets to 90, it will turn green. Oh, there we go. Water temp just turned green. So then once the oil temp comes up to operating temperature, then the tach will turn green as well. All right, that oil temperature is getting close to the trigger point where it will turn green, both the RPM and oil temp meter. There it goes. So we are up to operating temperature. Sweet. I've got my rev meter up here set really low, so I can just rev it low and just test that my shift lights trigger. Oil pressure looks great. And then you can see the flash. Normally when I set this up, when I get close to red line, these outer lights will blink red as well. That oil pressure, I know it's just the wire. That's awesome. That is crazy. All right, let me jiggle that wire. There it is. All right, that's awesome. We've got this thing tested. The dash is working great. Now I'm gonna fix that oil pressure connector, fix that loose wire there, and then we should be good to go. But man, I am super excited. This thing, all the electronics are working great. I noticed too that I've got to change the threshold for the oil pressure. I didn't know what the low end oil pressure should be, but you can see it's red now. It's in a warning state, but I'm just going to lower that threshold to, obviously, let's see, oil pressure is running about 30 psi. So I'll lower that critical threshold to like 25 or maybe 20 even. And then it will remain green there even at warm idle. Gotta fix that too in the software. My cooling fans just kicked on as well. You can see that little icon there. All right, let's shut her down. All right, cool. A few things I noticed. First one is fan. So the fans are kicking on plus or minus, I don't know, around 98, and it's because I got a coolant temp sensor built into the radiator. This came from the factory. This is simply a thermostat here that triggers the switch to ground. So I've got my PDM programmed when this triggers to turn on the fans, but now that I've got the telemetry from the ECU, the coolant temperature in the ECU, I can actually use that to trigger. So I think I'm gonna do that, switch that up, and I've got to fix the wire on the oil pressure sensor, but the rest looks pretty good. A little bit of tweaking there, but man, car runs and idles great. All right, I also want to test the buttons on the steering wheel here. So first of all, the horn button. Let's see if this works.
If I tell you boys something, you won't.
Yep, that works awesome. Then let's do left directional. Yes. Right directional. Yes. Hazards. Yes. That's awesome. And then I don't have the lights wired up yet, but if I do hit the headlights here, that's parking lights, headlights, and then rear fog lights, and then with this button, I can hit the high beam. There it goes. And then I hit the button again and they'll all cycle off. So that's working. Awesome.
All right, the next thing I want to do is set up an e-brake switch, so when I pull the e-brake handle, it actually triggers a switch. So I'm going to just design a very simple bracket here that you could see on Fusion 360, and then I'm going to push this over to my CNC machine, and we're going to machine this thing out, install it in the car.
All right, well, I'm going to turn my attention now to the transmission. This is the final step that I need to figure out before I can get this car rolling down the road. A few episodes ago, you remember, I tried it, it failed. I learned I needed to reprogram or reset the mechatronic so that it would relearn the engagement points and so forth in the dual clutch transmission. To do that with the factory system requires a bunch of hoops to jump through, namely the emergency brake system. It needs to see through CAN bus that the emergency parking brake system is enabled. I'm not going to go through and do that. I was originally going to go through and try to reverse engineer all that. I'm not going to do that. And I've since discovered and learned of an alternative solution. So guys, that's going to do it for this episode. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss the next one. I am getting super excited. A little bit tricky to put this wiring together, but I'm confident I can make it go. And I'm excited about what this will bring and what this will mean getting this car operational and on the road finally. So until then, we'll see y'all next time.